I don't know if it's official, Mark, but I've got one on. It feels like hoodie weather outside. It's week 3 of the high school football season. You're locked and loaded into the Desmond Johnson Show. High school football preview. Winston-Salem Journal beat writer, prep beat writer Marc Pruitt joining me every Wednesday in season to go through his top 3 games in the Triad this week. And we got a lot to choose from. One of the biggest weeks on the schedule. We'll go through that. Not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 5 games Tobacco Road will have live for you at tobaccoroadsportsradio.com, and some of the biggest matchups in the state. Y'all know what it is. It's the Desmond Johnson Show.
Live with Desmond Johnson, son, the live is one. Represent NC to the fullest.
Yeah, welcome to the Carolinas. Everywhere you go, the sky is Carolina blue, the finest. Live action, feedback, the city need that. I've been number 1, no cap. Here's the recap. Adrenaline is my addiction. I'm about to relapse. Step on the turf if you want and get your weed whack. I'm going harder than a martyr on the starter end. It's the heart of man, that's a rap like a cardigan. I'm breaking records, it's 4th and inches, I count the seconds. The over-under's my roar of thunder, my secret weapon. Yeah, the game is to be told. I don't break, I break modes. Follow me on Tobacco Road.
Desmond Johnson, son, the live is one. Represent NC to the fullest.
And it is a high school football Wednesday here on Tobacco Road Sports Radio. Desmond Johnson here in the house with you. It's the Desmond Johnson Show, joined by my compadre, Marc Pruitt from the Winston-Salem Journal. Before we even get into upcoming games this upcoming week, anything we want to touch on from last week? Anything that happened that we might want to, I don't know, bring up maybe? I don't know.
Some good games. I think the wildest finish, and I found out more about this at practice at Reagan on Tuesday. The wild finish they had, they were 9 down with about 6 minutes to go. Had a kick return for a touchdown. Then they stopped the team on four and out. Got the ball back with about 2 minutes left to go. Jacob Smith led the team down the field, threw a touchdown pass with about 20 seconds left. And then they had to survive the kickoff and 2 of the, as Coach Josh Mee called it, backyard football plays where they throwing it around, everybody behind them. And the Mooresville quarterback ended up catching the ball, and he had a straight line to the end zone before he got tripped up by Jerry Summers first, and then KJ Woody made the tackle at about the 2-yard line that saved the win. So a wild finish, and I'm writing a story about that for Friday's paper, actually. And it's not, the bad thing about that, and we'll talk about that with Grimsley and Reagan. I know it was kind of one of the featured games this week. Jacob Smith ended up tearing his ACL on a play before he threw the touchdown pass. So he went back in the game after he was hurt.
Wow.
The extent of the injury at the time, obviously. Went back in the game to throw the game-winning touchdown pass. But talking to him on Tuesday at practice, he was on crutches. And then I saw that he put out on his Twitter last night that he tore he was having the MRI yesterday. And I saw he put out on Twitter last night that he tore his ACL and he was done for the season. So hate that for him. He's a great young man and gritty performer on the gridiron and on the baseball field. He's already committed to NC State for both of those things. So.
Yeah, it broke. We were finishing up the nest last night in Kernersville, and one of the students came up and asked me and Coach Willard if we had heard the news about the Reagan quarterback, and then that's when we found out, and I went and found Jacob's tweet on X. I hate to see Reagan losing their 2-year starting quarterback. As you said, he's committed to NC State for baseball and football now, if I'm not mistaken. And with ACL, I'm not sure. That's not a year-long thing. Like, he might be out next year too, right? Because he's a junior.
Yeah, those nowadays, I think you can kind of be back 8 months or so, 6 to 8 months, depending. I guess baseball is what's going to be up in the air too now, where he's going to be. I think he was kind of be the number 1 starter for those guys this year. And he committed to NC State as a baseball player when he was a freshman. So he's got a pretty good future ahead of him with that as well. But I hate it for him. But
I guess the other big news coming out of the Triad, once again, a team went up to Raleigh and took on a Rolesville team that was ranked high early in the year and took care of business. Grimsley going up there and basically just handling Rolesville 35-20. I saw a lot of people commented on that in different groups that I'm in, that they were surprised that it seemed like Grimsley, I guess the big nod was that Grimsley was the better coach team, that their coaching staff was just on point that night and just did what they had to do to get the victory.
I wasn't surprised Grimsley won. I was surprised the scores I saw where they had such a commanding lead, it seemed. And also the emergence of Hudson Cooper, wide receiver, who had never had a catch, I think, in a varsity game, and had 5 for 200 yards and 3 touchdowns or whatever it was. So that's crazy. So that's another weapon to add to Grimsley's already stacked offensive lineup. So
I think that game Friday night answered the question for me of, and I had mentioned it to you a number of times, I wanted to see Faison Brandon without those 2 D1 wide receivers he had last year, just to kind of see how he would do it. And this was probably, I won't say it was Faison's coming out party, but this was probably the game, because the first game, he didn't really have to do a whole lot for Grimsley to win. And this was really the first true test that they had. And speaking to their students during their coaches show on Monday nights, they had this date circled because they felt like they were coming into it and people were kind of treating them like the underdog. As opposed
going to be the hot team coming in.
Yeah, they just dropped 66 points on Butler and all this other stuff. So all we were hearing was Rolesville. And then to me, I'm like, well, I already know what Grimsley's about. We've been around them for a couple of years now. Like they just beat Rolesville last year here in Greensboro. Like, it's not really that big of a deal. And then they just went down there and methodically took care of business. So that changed the rankings. I haven't looked at the Max Preps rankings yet for the group. Rolesville was the 1.
Yeah.
I think Grimsley was 7. So they'll probably push them up to the top 3 or 4 after that win RPI wise. So we'll look at that too. We do have West Forsyth head coach Kevin Wallace coming in about 8 or 9 minutes here on your lunch break. He's going to help us preview West Forsyth Weddington. Titans talk has been off for the past couple of weeks. They will be back Monday. You can see me and Marc and Clemens along with JP Mundy. Hopefully after a West Forsyth win, they got a huge game coming up here versus Weddington, the defending 4A state champions, and they're probably the number 1 team in the state right now with Rolesville falling. This Friday, we'll go through that and the 5 games that I mentioned before that Tobacco Road will be broadcasting later on here. But real quick, before we get Coach Wallace in here, Marc, looking forward to this Friday. Give us your top 3 games to watch here in the Triad.
Well, let's go ahead and start. Maybe it's going to lose a little of the shine that it would have, but start with Grimsley and Reagan. Both teams are going into their 2-0. I think some people are probably surprised at Reagan being 2-0 at this point. Mooresville was a legit team. They hung 66 on Davie in the first week of the season. Reagan lost a lot of key pieces from last year's team, and there was some question marks going in. They still had Jacob Smith. They still had Jerry Summers. Leo Hazel-Rajicic is a great linebacker for those guys. KJ Woody gives them another little defensive guy. But I think there were a lot of question marks about Reagan, and I think they answered a lot of those last week. Grimsley is Grimsley, coming off a huge win last week against Rolesville. I don't think this is any kind of trap game or whatever you want to call it.
No, they talk about Reagan's been feisty against Grimsley the past 2 or 3 years, so they're well aware of Reagan coming in here.
I think Reagan always kind of seems to play with a chip on their shoulder a little bit, and even more so this year because of personnel that they lost. And everybody's probably talking about East, and rightfully so, and Mount Tabor, and rightfully so. And maybe Reagan's a little caught up in the undertow of that. But Josh McGee is a heck of a football coach. He's been doing it. I think it's his 13th or 14th season there now. He really gets those guys playing hard. He really has them motivated. They are together. It's great seeing him before practice started, kind of, working with some of the position guys and firing them up for practice that day, especially with the news. They knew Jacob Smith. He was there on crutches at practice. They knew he was probably going to be out for this game this week. He's getting those guys fired up. And he'll have them ready to play Friday night for sure. Just does he have the horses to compete with what Grimsley's going to put out there?
So Grimsley Reagan, game 1 on Marc's list of 3 games to watch out for in the Triad this week. It's actually going to be our WCOG game of the week on 105.3 FM and 1370 AM out in Guilford County. So if you live out there and want to hear it on terrestrial radio, you can hear it there, or you'll be able to hear it through TobaccoRoadSportsRadio.com. Marc, give us game number 2.
Well, Coach Wallace is coming on here, and we've got to talk about that one. West is 2-0.
Oh boy, yeah.
No, they're doing a special thing Friday night for all military personnel and veterans that can get into the game for free. I think they're going to have some kind of little ceremony to honor those that are there Friday night. And apparently Weddington does something similar for their home games down in Matthews when they play. I was talking to Coach Perez about this, and he's been busy getting this set up, and he's retired or was served in the Marine Corps, so he's pretty excited and pumped up about this. Weddington, reigning state champions in the 4A, they mercy ruled Hoggard in the championship game last year. Put on quite a show. I think their best receiver from last year is now playing at Carolina or NC State. I can't remember which one he ended up going to, but they're still loaded offensively and defensively. Thomas Davis Jr., you might know the name from Carolina Panthers. His son is one of the studs they have on defense. So it'll be interesting to hear from Coach Wallace on how they're kind of scheming up for this. But I think West had a complete effort. I was at the game last week against Oak Grove. They went down 7-0 early, and then just about midway through the second quarter just started to light it up, and I think just overpowered Oak Grove. Riley Horton, the quarterback who transferred from Parkland, is now really finding his groove in that offense that Coach Wallace has. Running back C.J. Elkins went for 124 yards and a touchdown. And Daviel Eldridge, nicknamed Turtle. I'm glad I didn't put the jinx on him and his brother. Last week for the Journal that came out Friday, the day of the game, and he put on a show. He had, I think, 3 sacks, 6 or 7 tackles, and most of those were for loss. I mean, he was stuffing their running back, Carson Williams, who I think ran for close to 1,300 yards last year and 17 or 18 touchdowns. I think he finished the game with 6 yards total.
Wow.
Just really punished Oak Grove's offense and just didn't leave them much room to operate at all.
That's a good Oak Grove program. I think undefeated regular season last year, made a deep run in 3A in the playoffs, if I'm not mistaken. So great win for the Titans. Again, Titans Talk will be back this upcoming Monday, live from Playground Golf and Sports Bar in Clemens. Definitely come check us out there. 7:30 p.m. live. We'll be there after this game. Got head coach Kevin Wallace from West Forsyth coming up in just a bit. Marc, give us your third game to watch here in the Triad this week.
Well, in the Triad, it will be Parkland and Carver at Deaton Thompson Stadium. Doing this rivalry, they haven't played against each other since I think 2018. When I was
going to say that you, as soon as you said Parkland versus Carver, it immediately shot me back to like 2002 or whatever, like Jed Bynes and like all those guys, like
Phillips and D-Bell, Coach.
Filling up Bowman Gray, like yeah.
I covered a few of those games back in the glory days of it. And they would get good crowds at Bowman Gray Stadium. So the one of the best and most fun parts of seeing the game is halftime, because the bands come and they are on it. It is fun to watch because they're competing against each other too. I'm not sure how that matches up now, knowing high school music programs kind of have become.
That's not the same as it was like back in I graduated in '96, so like it was a treat whenever we go play Carver or somebody, and it's like, we get to see the Carver band at halftime, or Dudley, we get to see their band at halftime, and it's not exactly the same anymore. But there's a couple still out there that have good bands.
I think she'll be fun. I was out at Parkland a week or so ago talking to Coach Sharp, and the band was practicing, and you could hear them. And I hope it's as fired up as it used to be with all that, because that really helps get the crowds going too. But
yeah,
Parkland's 2-0 coming into this one. Carver's 1-1, lost Monday night at Lexington. But Derek Sharp, I think, helped rejuvenate that program. He's just got a ton of energy, and he's really leaning on the history of the program and instilling that in the kids that he has now. Got a few players out there. There's some dudes. Quarterback Ethan Bailey he's a junior, starting his first year as a starter there. Has had a couple of really good games. Scott Walker is a defensive end. He's actually committing to his college on Saturday. And he's a stud. He was an all-area player last year, had 17 sacks. So they're doing some good things at Carver too. Coach Leon Mars, in his second year as the coach, he played under Coach Keith Wilkes. He's played in this rivalry game. He won a state championship when he was a player at Carver. So I think it's going to be fun that they're reigniting that. I'm supposed to talk to both of those guys at some point today or tomorrow to get kind of their feel for it. But I think that one could be a lot of fun too.
So you got those three. You got Parkland, Carver, Grimsley, Reagan, West Forsyth, and Weddington. And lucky for us, we actually have 2 of those 3 games this Friday. Tobacco Road, not 1, 2, 3, or 4, but we've got 5 live games because we're completely out of our mind, Marc Pruitt. I don't even know why we decided to do this, but we got 5 live games that are going on Friday. West Forsyth versus Weddington headlining it. That is your WTOB high school football game of the week. It'll be broadcasted across the entire Triad, as WTOB also has a frequency 1470 AM in Greensboro. Your WWBG. They mirror WTOB, and you hear some of Tobacco Road's programming there as well on Fridays and Saturdays. Glenn hosting Chambers. That's been a pretty good matchup, week 3 matchup the past couple of years now, as Glenn and Chambers are going back and forth, home and home. East Forsyth, AC Reynolds at 7:30. I will be with Rod Funderburg up in the mountains in Asheville, broadcasting that game. You can hear that one as well. Grimsley versus Reagan is the WCOG game of the week on 105.3 and 1320 AM. That is a 7:30 kickoff. Chase Williams and Coach James Willoughby will be with you at pregame at 7. And then you got Southwest Guilford versus High Point Central. Southwest Guilford hosting at the Ranch. That is a 7:30 kickoff with Max and Collins. So got all those. This huge gamut of games. And then we're on a bye next week. We'll have some coaches shows next week. The Titans Talk will be back. The Nest will be on. But everybody literally that I've got up there on that screen is pretty much on a bye next week. So we decided we're just going to take the bye with them. So no game next Friday night because, again, we're crazy enough to do 5 games at one time this week. Waiting in the wings to talk about this anticipated matchup is head coach Kevin Wallace from the West Forsyth Titans from the Village. And Coach, this is a matchup. You guys saw them last year. You went down to Weddington. As a matter of fact, you've played Weddington a couple of years now. I know last year was your first year at West Forsyth. Tell us, after playing them last year and I know you've seen a bunch of tape on them already. Tell us the number one thing that stands out to you about this Weddington team that's the defending 4A state champ. And if I'm not mistaken, they're probably ranked number 1 in the state now with Rollsville losing to Grimsley last week.
Yeah, defensively they're solid, especially up front. I mean, the front 7 guys are very good, aggressive. Probably 3 out of those 4 D linemen are big time Division I recruits. You got the Thomas kid, outside linebacker, another D1 kid. I mean, they are very good up front in the front 7. I think is their strong suit. Offensively, big quarterback. They have a couple injuries offensively we know about. They're going to be well coached. They're going to get downhill. They're going to play physical. You're going to have to play assignment football. There's going to be some type of trickery at some point. I know West, we played them last year, and before I got here, they played them, but we also played them when I was in Northwest. So I've seen them and we used to go to minicamp with Capone and all them. So been around Weddington for a while. I've seen, they're very well coached. They got a bunch of players out there. So we got to play. We can't have the mistakes we did the last 2 weeks. We can't shoot ourselves in the foot, and we have to go out there and execute from the get-go. We can't wait till the second half to execute.
Marc, you got any questions for Coach Wallace?
So we talked about this last week after your game, but you've got to be pretty stoked about how your defense has been playing the first 2 weeks. I think 23 total points allowed. Pearl, especially last week, had a really great performance. How well does your defense match up with what they do offensively?
I think we're strong in areas that we need to be against them. I think we've done a good job. Hopefully we continue to just continue how we've played the last 2 games offensively. I thought we did really well, honestly, against a run for both games, even though we had a little high rush per attempt in the AC Reynolds game. Defense, but secondary wise, I think we're return a lot of starters. I think that's one of our stronger areas in the secondary. I think we match up decently. We just got to play our football. We got to play our assignments, and can't let the game get bigger than what it is and blow assignments. I mean, that can hurt us quickly. So we just got to make sure. I think we'll be okay. if our defense can just continue take the next step for this game that they have from last week, and I think defensively will be okay.
How are the kids in terms of prepping for this game? Because I gotta imagine they're online, they're on social media, they see all this stuff. They see that Weddington's defending champ and #1 and coming into the Village. How are they taking this challenge in terms of are they treating it as just another game, or are they treating it as this is the #1 team in the state? We really have a chance to make a statement here. With the win against the Weddington team that can really put the Titans on a statewide radar going into your bye week. How's the vibe with the team, and how are you feeling going into this in terms of their preparation for it?
I think we have a good mindset. A lot of our kids that were on the team last year, when we look back and not taking anything away from them because they played very well last year, but we had 4 really big plays that kind of gave the game away, and really saw that if we would have executed on those 4 plays, it's a lot tighter, if not a different outcome. And I think that bother our kids. I think that was a turning point for us last year going into it. Also, once we look back on it during the bye week with our kids, was like, hey, these are simple assignments that we blew because we tried to do too much and not do our job. And I think that changed our mindset. But I think for last year, for the rest of the season last year, and then this year, I think our returners know that. And they say we can't hurt ourselves. We can't beat ourselves in big time games. And that goes into everything, all the big games we played last year and even going forward. We have to make sure we take care of our business and don't hurt ourselves going against it. But I think they have a good mindset going into it. I think they're ready. I think they're excited to have them up here and not having to travel down there. So we'll see on Friday night.
It's going to be packed probably, I'd imagine, in the Village too on Friday night. And the weather just flipped. Like I said at the beginning of the show, I got a hoodie on. It's like hoodie weather's here finally. It's going to feel like fall, I believe, outside by we get to Friday. It's going to be like in the 50s, I think. So it's going to be all crisp.
Up in Nashville too, I think.
Yeah, it's going to be cold. You might
I don't even know what to wear. Yeah, I don't even know. I've never been to AC Reynolds before, so I have no idea what to expect. You guys just went up there, right?
Yeah.
Week 1.
3 weeks ago. Yeah.
How's the facilities up there? How is it?
Good, nice facilities. Turf field, nice stadium.
Ooh,
they redid the visitor sideline, concession area back there. I mean, they have a locker room for both teams, which is nice. It's nice facilities. It really is. It's nice
because they were in 3A. They just moved up to 4A last year. And we're in the playoffs. So and last year, I believe it wasn't a blowout or anything. I think East won 27-21 or something like that. So it was a close matchup back and forth. I think AC Reynolds had a couple of errors, and we just capitalized on it during the game. But I know they're expecting a dogfight going up there. It's probably the toughest matchup East will see in this first couple of weeks of the season. So I'll be up there for that. So that'll be an adventure. But JP Mundy and Griffin Albright actually will be on the call for your game at the Village. Are you guys having the same audio problems with NFHS as everyone else?
I have no clue about that. Okay. I got to ask other people on that one.
So something's going on with NFHS. Like they went around, apparently upgraded all of your cameras and your servers and stuff over the off season, I guess. And when they did it, they either knocked out the option where we could put audio into the video, or there's something inside it where you have to go in and turn it on. And I've talked to Alan Plaster at East. I've talked to Joe McCormick at Glenn. We can't figure it out. We can't figure out what they did. And it's starting to make me wonder if NFHS took it out, like if they took the option out completely when they upgraded, which would suck because it has nothing to do with them really. It's still watching their stuff. It doesn't affect their bottom line whatsoever if that's what's going on. But we were going to run a line because JP was asking me about running the line for you guys for your feed. I told him, honestly, we probably won't bother because right now we can't figure out how to get the audio back in it because of whatever they did when they upgraded it. So if you've been watching these games on NFHS and expecting Tobacco Road's calls underneath them, that's why they haven't been underneath them so far this season. It is a work in progress. We're trying to figure it out, and we'll post an update on that as soon as we can. We're going to do Titans Talk. We haven't done it in 2 weeks, so we will be at Playground Monday after this matchup. And then it's a bye after that, so everybody's kind of off. But any last words you want to put out there? Coach, I heard the bell ring, so I know you probably got someplace you got to be.
Third lunch. So it's the third lunch coming up. I'm good.
Is there anything you want to mention while we got you here before we let you go?
Nah, just excited. Another great opportunity. As we told our kids, it's just a great opportunity to play a big-time game and hopefully get us ready for conference. And that, I know they feel some pressure, but pressure is a privilege. You're playing in big-time games, you're doing big-time things, and a lot of people are expecting big things from this game. So we're excited for it.
The CPC is shaping up. The CPC looks like it's going to be nuts. You've got an undefeated Parkland. Reynolds is undefeated. You guys are undefeated. East is undefeated. I think Davies 1-1. It's just gonna Tabor. It was ranked like they're 1-1. They bounced back last week. This is gonna be nuts. So we'll kind of wrap our arms around it after we come back from the bye week and everything else. I don't know if we're gonna do high school Wednesday. Well, we probably will. We'll probably recap these games, Mark. And there'll be some other games going on in the Triad, but it's just gonna be slim pickings because I feel like everybody goes on a bye week 4 for some reason. So we'll kind of figure that out. But we're going to let Coach Wallace get out of here. I got to let Marc go too. That is your Wednesday high school football preview. Again, 5 live games this Friday on TobaccoRoadSportsRadio.com. Just come check us out, the listings, and follow us on social media at Tobacco Radio to get your pairings and the times and starts and all that good stuff. But we are your home for high school football in the Triad. We will see you on Friday.
See you guys.